Conflict management. Hello, everyone. Today I'll be discussing 4 different topics related to conflict management and negotiation. Throughout my presentation, I'll explain my perspective, give examples from my own experiences, and discuss why I believe these concepts are important in the workplace. Conflict is something everyone experiences, whether it's at work, school, or even in our personal lives. Learning how to handle conflict effectively can improve relationships, teamwork, and productivity. Why do relationships conflicts potentially lead to the most dysfunctional and harmful outcomes? I believe relationship conflicts have the potential to create the most harmful outcomes because they become personal, unlike task conflict, which focuses on work itself, or process conflict, which focuses on how work is done. Relationship conflict is based on emotions, personalities, attitudes, and personal differences. And once people begin taking things personally, it becomes much harder to focus on solving the original problem for real. For example, take task conflict can actually be healthy. Two employees might disagree about how to complete a project, but both people still have the same goal of producing quality work. Process conflict can also be resolved by discussing responsibilities and deciding who should complete certain tasks. Those conflicts stay focused on the job. Relationship conflict is different because people often become defensive. They may feel disrespected, ignored, or attacked. Once trust begins to disappear, communication also suffers. Instead of listening to each other, people become more interested in proving they're right or blaming the other person. That creates a negative work environment, and that can lower morale for everyone around them. I've seen situations where two coworkers simply didn't get along. Every conversation between them became uncomfortable, even when discussing simple work tasks. Other employees noticed the tension, and eventually everyone tried to avoid working with them together. Instead of focusing on helping customers or completing tasks efficiently, energy was spent dealing with the conflict. That experience showed me that relationship conflict doesn't just affect people involved in it, it affects the whole entire team. I also think relationship conflict can create a long-term problem. Once people lose trust in another, rebuilding trust takes time. Even after the original disagreement is resolved, there may be resentment or hesitation on working together again. Overall, I believe relationship conflict is the most harmful because emotions replace logic. Instead of focusing on finding solutions, people focus on defending themselves or criticizing others. That makes it much harder to solve problems and maintain positive work relationships. Also, which conflict management strategies are most likely between unequal parties and equal parties? There are 5 common conflict management strategies: competing, avoiding, accommodating, compromising, and collaborating. Each strategy has situations where it can be effective, but I think the balance of power between people often influences often influences which strategy is better used. When there is an unequal relationship, such as a manager and employee, I think accommodating and avoiding are the most common strategies. Employees usually understand that their supervisor has authority to make the final decision. Because of that, employees may choose to accommodate the manager's decision even if they personally disagree. Some employees may also avoid conflict because they want to damage the relationship or create problems at work. For example, if two co-workers were assigned to complete a project together, both of them depend on each other for success. Instead of trying to win an argument, they're more likely to discuss different ideas and combine the best parts of each suggestion. If they cannot completely agree, they may compromise. So everyone feels the outcome is fair. Personally, I think collaboration is used the strongest strategy because it creates trust, improves communication, and often leads to better long-term relationships. While compromise can solve problems quickly, collaboration often produces solutions that satisfy everyone involved. A time I managed conflict through avoidance. One situation where I used avoidance involved a disagreement at work. Instead of addressing the issue immediately, I decided to wait before bringing it up. I decided to wait before bringing it up because I didn't want emotions to make the conversation worse. At the time, what I was really avoiding wasn't just the judgment or disagreement itself. I was avoiding an uncomfortable conversation, possible frustration, and the fear that the discussion might become an argument. I thought giving everyone some time to calm down would make the situation easier. Looking back, avoidance helped a little because it allowed me to take time to think about what I wanted to see instead of reacting emotionally. However, it didn't actually solve the problem. The misunderstanding remained, and eventually we still needed to discuss on the situation. Waiting too long actually made things more awkward because people started making assumptions about what the other person was thinking. The experience taught me that avoidance should be temporary rather than permanent. Sometimes taking a short break gives everyone time to calm down and think more clearly. Eventually, honest communication is necessary if the problem is important. I think avoidance is the most appropriate when emotions are extremely high, when additional information is needed, when the issue is very small, or when the timing is simply isn't right. For example, if someone is very upset or trying to solve the conflict immediately might only make things worse. Waiting until everyone is calm usually leads to a more productive conversation. Overall, avoidance is useful in certain situations, but it should never become a habit. Most important conflicts require a respectful communication, and people want to build a strong relationship and prevent future misunderstandings. Interrogative bargaining strategies. Interrogative bargaining. Interrogating bargaining focuses on creating solutions where everyone benefits instead of having one side win and the other side lose. I believe this approach is one of the most effective ways to resolve conflict because it encourages cooperation and long-term relationships. The first strategy is separating the people from the problem. I think that is extremely important because disagreements should focus on solving the issue instead of criticizing someone's personality. Even when people disagree, they should continue treating each other with respect. The second strategy is focusing on interests instead of positions. A person's position is what they say, what they want, while their interests explain why they want it. Understanding those underlying interests often make it easier to discover situations that satisfy everyone. The third strategy involves generating a variety of possibilities before making a final decision. Instead of arguing over one situation or solution, people should brainstorm multiple ideas. This creates more opportunities for finding a solution that benefits for everyone. The fourth strategy is insisting on fair standards. Decisions should be based on objective facts, company policies, contracts, or other fair criteria instead of personal opinions or favoritism. Using Fair standards increase trust because everyone believes they are being treated equally. In the negotiation case in class, I believe these strategies were used to encourage cooperation rather than competition. The negotiators focus on understanding each other's concerns, remain respectful throughout the discussion, explore different solutions instead of insisting on only one outcome, and work toward a fair agreement that both sides could accept. Personally, I believe all four strategies are important because successful negotiation depend on communication, trust, and fairness. When people feel respected and included in the process, they are much more likely to support the final decision. In conclusion, the chapter helped me better understand that conflict is the normal part of life in the workplace. Conflict itself isn't necessarily negative in many situations. It can lead to better ideas, stronger communications, and improved teamwork if it's handled correctly. The biggest lesson I learned is that people should focus on solving problems instead of attacking each other personally. Listening carefully, communicating respectfully, and looking for solutions benefit from everyone usually produce the best skills, long-term results. These are skills that help me do things really. That help me do things really because those skills will help me throughout my career and workplace and depend on teamwork and effective communication. After learning the different type of conflicts and various conflict management strategies, I learned that every situation is different. There isn't no outcome for one strategy that works for every problem. Sometimes collaboration is the best choice because it allows everyone to work together, find solutions. It benefits everyone. Over time, compromise may be necessary when time is limited. In some situations, avoidance can be helpful if emotions are running high and people need time to calm down before having an important conversation. The most important thing is understanding the situation and choosing the approach that will create the best long-term outcome. I also think communication is one of the biggest factors in resolving conflict. When people actively listen, ask questions, and try to understand each other's point of view, disagreements are much less likely to become personal. Respect, honesty, and patience can make a huge difference when people are trying to solve problems together. These lessons are important for me because I use them throughout my career. As I said, no matter what the job is, someone has experience and there will always be disagreements, but knowing how to communicate professionally and work through disagreements can make it better. Employee, co-worker, and future leader. I also believe these skills are useful outside of work. Conflict management can improve relationships with family, friends, classmates, or anyone we interact with on a regular basis. Learning how to stay calm, listen carefully, and focus on situations instead of placing blame can strengthen relationships and build trust over time. So as I said, this chapter really helped me a lot. And like outside of life, like as I said, it can resolve things. Like moral of the story, most of the stuff about this chapter is really about relationships and things and how you could reduce conflict. That's the most thing in everybody's relationship. Like it's not even about the relationship, it's like in general, like how to resolve conflict. So yeah, thank y'all for having me. I hope y'all took notes and I hope everybody got what they needed. So thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope my discussion gave you a better understanding on conflict of management and negotiation strategies.